start with the kirtan, yes?
Yes, please.
Is there somebody who would like to volunteer? Priyanka or Sucharadev Prabhu? Priyanka Mataji. My voice is a little raspy right now, so, but I could try if nobody else wants to.
Okay, Mataji, Hare Krishna. Yeah, I'll do.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Jai, thank you so much, Priyanka Mataji. Would you like to also chant Premadhvani?
Jai Vishnu Pad, Paramahansa Parvati Acharya Stotra Shashri's Divine Grace, Abhay Chalamin, Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada ki jai, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय, श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय, श्री मायापुर धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, ताई गौर प्रेमानंदी, हरि बोल.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Priyanka Mataji, and welcome everyone for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Wednesday, February 7th, 2024 in New York, and tonight we are starting with Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 28th chapter, verse number 9. It looks like we have a lot of new guests, new participants tonight, so happy to see everyone. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'll start us off and just say that for those joining this Zoom meeting for the first time, Maharaj's format is that questions are welcome at any point if you want to use the chat window or use the raise hand feature. That's it. We'll hope to have a lively and variegated discussion. Hare Krishna. So text number 9. This is Kapila Dev speaking to Mother Devahuti about the yogic, the process of yoga. Pranasya shodhayan margang pura kumbhaka rechakahi pratikulena vachitam yathastiram achanchalam. The yogi should clear the passage of vital air by breathing in the following manner. First, he should inhale very deeply, then hold the breath in, and finally exhale. Or, reversing the process, the yogi can first exhale, then hold the breath outside, and finally inhale. This is done so that the mind may become steady and free from external disturbances. Srila Prabhupada's purport: these breathing exercises are performed to control the mind and fix it on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo. The devotee Ambarish Maharaj fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna 24 hours a day. The process of Krishna consciousness is to chant Hare Krishna and to hear the sound attentively so that the mind is fixed upon the transcendental vibration of Krishna's name, which is non-different from Krishna, the personality. The real purpose of controlling the mind by the prescribed method of clearing the passage of the life air is achieved immediately if one fixes his mind directly on the lotus feet of Krishna. The Hatha Yoga system, or breathing system, is especially recommended for those who are very absorbed in the concept of bodily existence. But one who can perform the simple process of chanting Hare Krishna can fix the mind more easily. 3 different activities are recommended for clearing the passage of breath: Puraka, Kumbhaka, and Rechaka. Inhaling the breath is called Puraka, sustaining it within is called Kumbhaka, and finally exhaling it is called Rechaka. These recommended processes can also be performed in the reverse order. After exhaling, one can keep the air outside for some time and then inhale. The nerves through which inhalation and exhalation are conducted are technically called Ida and Pingala. The ultimate purpose of clearing the Ida and Pingala passages is to divert the mind from material enjoyment. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, one's mind is his enemy, and one's mind is also his friend. Its position varies according to the different dealings of the living entity. If we divert our mind to thoughts of material enjoyment, then our mind becomes an enemy. And if we concentrate our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, then our mind is a friend. By the yoga system of Puraka, Kumbhaka, and Rechaka, or by directly fixing the mind on the sound vibration of Krishna or on the form of Krishna, the same purpose is achieved. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that one must practice the breathing exercise, Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena. By virtue of these processes of control, the mind cannot wander to external thoughts, cetasa nanyagamina. Thus, one can fix his mind constantly on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and can attain yati, him. Practicing the yoga system of exercise and breath control is very difficult for a person in this age. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya recommended Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should always chant the holy name of the Supreme Lord Krishna, because Krishna is the most suitable name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The name Krishna and the Supreme Person Krishna are non-different. Therefore, if one concentrates his mind on hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, the same result is achieved. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshvari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So obviously here Kapila Dev is recommending a particular form of yoga for a particular time and place, and Prabhupada right away makes it very clear to us, reading it in this time and place, that the most recommended means in this day and age is to chant Hare Krishna, because this process of yoga, although authorized, is very difficult in the here and now. Even chanting Hare Krishna can be tricky and difficult in the here and now, because as Prabhupada says here, the mind can be your best friend, or it can be your worst enemy, depending on how you are, where you point it. If you point it towards sense enjoyment, the mind is your enemy. If you try to focus it on the name of Krishna, then it's your friend. The Prabhupada says here, the process of Krishna consciousness is to chant Hare Krishna and hear the sound attentively so that the mind is fixed upon the transcendental vibration of Krishna's name, which is non-different from Krishna, the personality. We've had discussions on this forum along the lines of, well, is pranayam recommended? Is yoga recommended? And while they're certainly authorized and helpful, Prabhupada's bringing us back to the point of what Krishna consciousness is fixing the mind on Krishna. And because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us this very easy and straightforward process for Kali Yuga of simply Kirtaniya Sadahari, that seems to be the point of what Prabhupada is saying here, and that's how we're being directed in this verse. It's a very simple process. There's only 3 words, and there's you and your mind and the holy name, and it's a very compact and portable arena in which to carry out your meditation. Shucho Deshe is not required, although can be helpful. Maharaj, we're hoping that you might care to say something about this verse and purport.
Well, I think you've covered the territory well, Kendra Prabhu. It's really notable how Srila Prabhupada gives virtually no importance for us to performing pranayam. He just goes right for chanting the holy name, fixing the mind on the personality of Godhead. And we were discussing the other day that even Sanatana Goswami suggests that before sitting down and chanting, one can perform some simple pranayama. But Prabhupada doesn't even go that far. He just immediately emphasizes the chanting of Hare Krishna and fixing the mind on Krishna. Nothing for, and of course in yoga this is a big deal. For Prabhupada it's like insignificant. That's it.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. We have quite a few participants today, 26 of them. Saraswati Mataji says, Pranams, the mind can be the greatest traitor in the garb of a friend. Maharaj, you're muted at the moment.
The devotees who've joined today are from ISKCON Habibganj in Bangladesh,
Jai.
where we have a very nice temple and temple under construction. Quite wonderful.
Do you have a live in-studio audience there as well?
No, I don't. There are many wonderful kirtaniyas here, but they're not in my room.
Okay, Jai. Sucharudeva Prabhu says, do our intentions to control the mind also come from the mind, or do they come from the soul with its own mind?
The controlled mind will be our friend. So, therefore, who is that? Is praying that Bhajahure Mana Sri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Bindave. My dear mind, just be engaged at the lotus feet of Krishna. Abhaya Charanara Bindave. Lotus feet of Nandananda. So the mind can, we're always sort of bashing the mind, but the mind can be our friend also when it's controlled. And then there's no difference between the spiritual mind and the mind that that's associated with this subtle body. The material mind becomes spiritualized by thinking of Krishna. So then it's all right. Does that answer the question?
Maharaj, thank you very much for the explanation, Maharaj. I just wanted to know that when we have some emotions or some thoughts coming out, so how do we differentiate that this thought is originating in our material mind or is a construct of our spiritual mind? That's what I wanted to ask.
Well, by intelligence. Manasastu para buddhi. Above the mind is the intelligence. Yo buddhe paratastusa. Above the intelligence is the soul. So when the mind is directed by the intelligence, then the mind is good. But when the mind is directed by the senses, sense objects, by mental concoction, then the mind is not very good. So we have to use our intelligence. When the mind is properly controlled and being engaged in the service of Krishna, then it's good. And not concocting something. Otherwise, it's for Krishna. The mind is expert at coming up with, it's for Krishna. But it's not for Krishna. It's our mental concoction for Krishna. So we need to be careful. Basically, we should be engaged in carrying out the instructions of the spiritual master, and the mind is purified. When we start imagining, oh, I could do this, I could do that, I could do this, then we need to be careful and just make sure the intelligence is properly engaged and that the intelligence is directed by the Shastras, by the orders of the spiritual master, confirmed by the devotees. Others.
Maharaj, I have a question. Can I ask?
Yes, why not?
When we desire something, is it the soul desiring or it is
The
simply the
slower,
mind
please.
desiring?
More slow. Could you ask again?
When we desire something, is it the soul desiring or is it simply the mind desiring?
Mind doesn't separately desire. Desire comes from the soul, but the soul, in contact with the material energy, has polluted desires. The soul is pure, but in touch with the material mind and senses, the soul becomes uh, polluted, or our desires become polluted. The mind can't desire anything on its own. It's matter. Matter has no thinking, feeling, or willing. The senses, we say, my senses want this, my senses want that. They don't actually want anything because they have no consciousness. But the soul in touch with the mind and senses develops these desires. So we identify with the senses, and then we say, I want this, I want that, or my tongue wants this, or my tongue needs that. But so this desire has to come from the soul because that's the seat of desire. But when desire is expressed or impelled by the material energy, conducted by the material energy, then we have material desire. Is that clear? Deepak, is that all right?
All right. Well,
I guess it's all right.
hopefully
right.
that's all right. Before we get to Tulsi Priya, who has a hand up, there's a follow-up from Sucharadev Prabhu, who says, is intelligence a part of consciousness or a part of the mind?
It's a part of the mind. Bhumir aponolo vayu kammano buddhirevacha. So it's one of the separated material elements. Kammano buddhirevacha. Or part of what the acharyas call the antakarana, the sense within. And the subtle body, collectively we refer sometimes to the mind, intelligence, and false ego as antakarana. So so intelligence is not part of the mind, or broadly construed, it's part of the mind, but it's part of the subtle body, of which the constituents are the mind, then the intelligence, then the false ego, and sometimes Prabhupada adds polluted consciousness. These are the polluted consciousness. We talked about that the other day. It's consciousness is by nature pure, but then it becomes a material element in the form of polluted consciousness. Is that okay? Sujar?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Okay.
Got it.
So thank you, Sucharadev Prabhu. And Tulsi Priya, please go ahead. You have something in the chat and also a hand up.
Actually, Mara just said so many things that my mind is swimming with questions to ask, but I will say what I mentioned in the chat is that my understanding is that the soul in touch with the material energy operates as the mind and the false ego, correct? It's the false conception of being the body.
The false ego is the false conception of being the body. It's not that the soul in touch with the mind and senses is the false ego, but it's that touch, which is the false ego.
So I've heard it said by another sannyasi, I think I've mentioned this in class before, that there's one entity but it functions, there's different functions. So false ego is one function, and mind is another function, and intelligence is another function, because it's hard to grasp the idea of the mind as being a thing, an entity. Is it a thing or an entity, or is it a function of consciousness? And intelligence is a function of consciousness, and false ego is a false function of consciousness, or an erroneous function of consciousness.
Well, these are described in Bhagavad Gita as elements.
Mm-hmm.
Mind, intelligence, false ego, subtle elements. They may be hard to conceive of because they're subtle, but just as earth is an element, water is an element, mind is also an element.
Mm-hmm.
Mind is also an element. Intelligence is also an element. And they're distinguished by their functions. What are the characteristics of earth? What are the characteristics of water? What are the characteristics of mind, intelligence? This will all be analyzed by Lord Kapiladev in Sankhya philosophy. So they're distinguished by their different functions, their different characteristics. But they're spoken of as elements.
To follow up, are you saying more, or I had a follow up for that?
Follow up.
So does the soul, I mean, in pure consciousness, is there, you said, I think, I don't remember your exact wording, but intelligence is part of the mind, or a function of the mind?
Well, broadly construed, when we use the term mind to mean the whole antakarana,
Mm-hmm.
intelligence is part of that. But generally, we don't do that. We distinguish and we say there's the mind, there's the intelligence, there's the false ego.
Mm-hmm.
So they're distinct.
So the Jivatma, the soul, is pure consciousness, but doesn't the Jiva also have, in other words, the functions that we understand, the mind and the intelligence and the ego, aren't those also there in the pure consciousness of the Jiva, a spiritual mind, a spiritual intelligence?
Everything's there.
All right.
Mind,
Thank-
senses, everything.
And yeah, and spiritual senses too.
Thank you, Tulsi. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
John. Deepak Prabhu, you have a hand up there. Please go ahead.
Prabhuji, my another question that I have. So when I read the Bhagavatam in third canto, I found that in this chapter, the Lord Kapil Dev said, Lord
Rishabdev?
Lord Kapil Dev story. In this chapter, I found that Mata Devahuti, when his urges become very high, then Kardam Muni, he expand himself in 9 forms. So Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that the soul never manufacture, soul new manufacture. So how can the 9 forms originated?
Of course, this is a little far off from our subject matter today, but the soul can manifest in more than one form at once. When Krishna was traveling with a group of sages, then they got 2 invitations, one from a king, Bahulashva, and one from a Brahmin, Shrutadev. So Krishna, just to accept both invitations, he expanded himself in 2. And okay, he's Krishna, he can do that. But the sages did the same thing. They expanded themselves in 2 forms and were present in the 2 places. So the soul can do that. It can, what shall we say, power 2 distinct appearances, material appearances. And Prabhupada gives the example of how television is expands, so that there's a person raising his hand, but you see 100 people raising their hands on 100 television sets. So it's a material technique. We don't know how to do it, but the yogis can do it. They can appear in two places at once. If you learn how to do it, you can become rich and famous. Is that all right?
Yes, Maharaj. I have understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Deepak Prabhu. Saraswati Mata says, but is it Maya that plants and dictates our desires and the soul is passive?
Well, what's the word? Surrender to Maya. And then Maya, through her three modes, suggests, why not this, why not that, why not this? So we become controlled. Prakriti sthani karshati. Become controlled by these three modes of nature, by Maya through the three modes of nature. And then she dictates our so-called desires, not exactly dictates them. Desire is there, but Maya says, you'd like this, wouldn't you? You'd like that, wouldn't you? Just like you're sitting someplace and you're happy, you're satisfied, but then you see an advertisement. Wouldn't it be great to have this? Wouldn't it be great to have that? And because your mind now is attracted, you say, yes, it would be great to have this, it would be great to have that. So it's not exactly that the desire is still coming from you, but in touch with that impetus, then you pick up that desire. What is that? Vayurgandhani Vashayat. In the 8th chapter, I think, Bhagavad Gita. You have that? Here it is. Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, Vayurgandhani Vashayat. Shotram Chakshus Parshanam Shavasanam Granam. I think it's 8th chapter. No, maybe it's actually 15. Yeah, 15. Shariram yadavapnoti yaschapyut kramati shadaha grihit vaitani sanyati vayurgandhani vashya. The living entities are struggling with the material nature, and so they're going from one body to another. Why am I going from one body to another? Because my mind is surcharged with the idea I could enjoy this way, I could enjoy that way. And so we get different bodies accordingly. You want to enjoy it this way? All right, take this body. You want to enjoy that way? Take that body. Shotram Chakshu Sparshan. You take this sense of touch, this eye, this ear, this tongue. Adhisthaya Manaschaya, organized around the mind. So the mind, when it's not controlled, becomes attracted by all of these things. And then the desires develop. What is Jayato Vishayan Pumsa Sangasteshu Pajayate? By meditating on something, we develop desire. Prabhupada gave a vivid example of that. He, in that little booklet, Transcendental Teachings of Prahlad Maharaj, Prabhupada said, sex life begins when you see a girl and you think, she's nice. So it begins with meditation. There's a Tolstoy story, I won't go into it. But the idea is meditation. A man's looking at a girl and he's attracted by anything, by an eyebrow, by an ankle bell, by this, by that, and he starts meditating. That's the idea. Just let's meditate. Let's just get this mind onto that girl. And once the mind is there, Sangat Sanjayate Kama, then the desire will come. Then the desire will come. If we think of a woman, then the next thing is the desire will be there for that woman. If we don't think about it, then the desire is not there. I didn't need her before. Why do I need her now? But because the mind is dwelling, so now the desire comes. Sangat Sanjayate Kama. So it's not so that Maya, it's not exactly dictates our desires, but there's what shall we say? You can say that. That's one, we don't have to be so technical. That's certainly a way to say it, that our desires are being dictated by Maya. But technically, our spiritual desires are being diverted by contact with something material. And the vehicles for that are the polluted consciousness, polluted by false ego, and then the mind. So, therefore, in the purport, so important to control the mind. Prabhupada doesn't give much importance to the pranayama, but controlling the mind, that's very important. So we have to control the mind by hearing, by chanting. Then, the same point, that now the desire comes to be Krishna conscious. The desire comes for serving Krishna, because now my mind is in touch with that. If my mind is in touch with material energy, then the mind will develop material desires. If my mind is in touch with the spiritual energy, it develops spiritual desires. So the technique is how to keep the mind always in touch with the spiritual subject matters. Krishna Katha, Krishna Nam, Krishna Lila, Krishna Rupa, so that my desires will be purified. Not only purified, but my desires will be my real desire, the desire to serve Krishna. Hope that's all.
Saraswati Mata, she has a follow-up to that. She says, so Maya gives conditional souls an alternate ego. Our original ego is buried indefinitely until we progress in bhakti.
Yeah. The alternate ego means false ego. I have a real ego, but I pick up this false ego. I'm an American, I'm Indian, I'm white, I'm black, I'm this, I'm that. I'm the enjoyer, I'm the controller. So then the original ego is practically lost, buried indefinitely, as you say, until we take up bhakti yoga.
Tulsi Priya, I could either read your question in the chat or you could read it if you like.
I will read it. I wrote, isn't a lot of what we experience as desire, I think Maharaj kind of addressed this already, but I wrote, isn't a lot of what we experience as desire simply interactions of the modes? If a young man sees a pretty girl and tries to meet her, is he really acting according to a rational and intentional idea? And I mean that loosely, not in the ultimate analysis. Seems more like hormones start surging and neurons light up as a result. Material nature is doing all the work and the poor guy goes along for the ride. So by that I mean that things are just happening automatically, but we think we're acting, and it's just,
Yahamkar vimudhatma kartahamiti. But again, it's the mind which is going there. And then once the mind goes there, all these things are happening.
Thank you.
The uttared atmanatmanam natmanam apicha natmanam apichadi avasadiye. One should uplift oneself by the mind and not degrade oneself.
Along those lines, Deepak Prabhu says, if the mind pushes us forcefully towards wrong, how can the mind be directable?
Push back. The mind is, mind is pushing one way, and we say, no, you're nonsense. Srila Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore said, beat it in the morning with a shoe 100 times, and evening 100 times with a stick. Yeah? The mind should be controlled, not that the mind is uncontrollable. Although Arjuna says that is practically, what is that? He mana Krishna pramati balavajritam tasyaham nigraham manye vayuriva suduskram. It's harder to control the mind than to control a hurricane. But asamshayam mahabaho manodur nigraham shavam. Yes, it's very hard to control the mind. Abhyasena tu kontiya vairagyena trigriyate. But it's possible by suitable practice and by determination. And we should say by good association. That's part of the practice. By staying in good association, we develop the desire that the devotees have. Let us serve Krishna. If we associate with materialists, then we'll tend toward the desires they have.
Underscoring what you said there, Maharaj, Tulsi Priya comments, Maharaj's point about association is relevant to the mind being directable. We tend to develop desires under the influence of association. And Saraswati Mata also comments that often it is said the sense-enjoyable objects sing to us very beautifully, like sirens that pull you in and kill. Any other comments or questions on this verse? Yes, Mataji, please go ahead. Your hand is up there.
Hare Krishna. My question is, why is Maya tries to break devotee's journey?
What is that? Your
Why
question?
Maya tries... My question is, why Maya tries to break devotee's journey?
Why does Maya try to break the devotee's journey? That's
Yes.
that's Maya's job.
Yes.
Called it a thankless task, but that's Maya's job. That you wanted to enjoy, all right, enjoy this way, enjoy that way. That's Maya's business, to attract the conditioned soul, including the devotee. So it's a purification. Are you serious? Are you sincere? Maya will test. Maya will test. And therefore we always have to be careful to be following the spiritual master's instructions, to be properly engaged in Krishna consciousness, so that we won't be pulled by Maya. Is that okay?
Thank you. I am satisfied.
All right. Thanks.
Discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. In the chat, Devi's Child says, Hare Krishna, we could say our mother and sisters are beautiful, but that does not mean we have some wrong thoughts about them. So can we say only an opinion about beauty means we have some wrong thoughts about women?
Okay, I guess that's chat. Oh, there it is. Okay. That does not mean we have some wrong thoughts about it. No. Just like Prabhupada was talking with Burijan Prabhu and his wife. His wife had been an actress and was beautiful as a young girl. And Prabhupada said that. He said that she's beautiful. Why should I say she's not beautiful? But his point was that the beauty is not false, but it should be engaged in the service of Krishna. It should be seen in relationship to Krishna. It's not that as soon as there's beauty, we're having a wrong thought. We appreciate that there's beauty, but the beauty should be not for my enjoyment, not for my enjoyment, for Krishna's enjoyment. I heard from Ray Rama early, 1968 maybe, that one time he said to Prabhupada, "Oh, Swamiji, come up and see the sunset. It's so beautiful." And Prabhupada said, as long as you're attracted to the beauty of the sunset, you won't be attracted to Krishna. Of course, there's another way we can say, all right, the beauty of the sunset reminds us of Krishna. That's 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But in this particular instance, Prabhupada set it up as a choice. If you're attracted to the sunset and that beauty, then you won't be attracted by Krishna's beauty. So be attracted by Krishna, not by the sunset. In any case, we don't have to deny material beauty, but how important is it? How important is it? And our consciousness should be, what is that for the men? Mantravat paradareshu. That just like a boy thinks his mother is very beautiful, I think most boys probably think their mother is beautiful. So, but there's no wrong thought there. It's not that I have to think my mother's ugly, but my mother's beautiful, but she's not for my enjoyment. She's not for my enjoyment. So that's all. I hope that helps.
Tulsi Priya comments, if I recall correctly, Srila Prabhupada told Rukmini Mataji, when she was initiated, I think, that she was a beautiful young girl, and now she should become beautiful on the inside. Hare Krishna. So we're at 7:49. I'm looking at our next verse here, text 10. It's a rather short verse and purport. Tulsi Priya, would you like to read?
All right. Text 10. Manochiratyad virajam jita swasasya yogina vaivagnibhyam yata loham dmatma matam tyajati vaimalam. The yogis who practice such breathing exercises are very soon freed from all mental disturbances, just as gold, when put into fire and fanned with air, becomes free from all impurities. Purport. This process of purifying the mind is also recommended by Lord Chaitanya. He says that one should chant Hare Krishna. He says further, Param Vijayate, all glories to Sri Krishna Sankirtan. All glories are given to the chanting of the holy names of Krishna, because as soon as one begins this process of chanting, the mind becomes purified. Chaitodarpana Marjanam. By chanting the holy name of Krishna, one is cleansed of the dirt that accumulates in the mind. One can purify the mind either by the breathing process or by the chanting process, just as one can purify gold by putting it in a fire and fanning it with a bellows. So not much to say, except Prabhupada in that sentence sort of gives almost equal weight to the breathing process or the chanting process. But going back to the idea of desire, if your desires are not purified, then you may have a lot harder time purifying yourself by the breathing process, whereas with the chanting process, the name itself purifies you, and you don't have to make a separate endeavor for purity or to purify yourself. So it seems obviously more effective to purify oneself by chanting, because with breathing you can get, who is it? Oh, Hiranyakashipu, he was doing the breathing and his desires were not at all pure. So I guess somehow he was purifying himself, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough, and he became very powerful, but it wasn't for any good purpose. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Tulsi Priya. Maharaj, would you care to comment on this verse and purport?
I don't think I have something to add at this point. Clear. Let's see. Mana chirat syad virajam chitasvasyasya yoginaha vayu agnibhyam ita loham. As gold becomes purified by fire, that means the gold has its natural state, and by the fire it becomes brilliant, because the brilliance is already there, just covered. So the brilliant state of the living entity is there, but we need a fanning process. So for the yogis, the fanning process is the Ashtanga Yoga system. And for the devotees, chanting the holy name of Krishna and rendering devotional service. And even the yogis, they have to ultimately come to this point of devotional service. Nothing to add beyond that, I think.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Joni Das and Dorshi Das say, Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for giving us suggestions about mind control. Devi's child says, in regard to Hiranyakashipu, but Hiranyakashipu went back to Vaikuntha after he died, right?
Yes, but not because of his austerities and so on. That was already prearranged. Not that because he did yogic austerities or something, he went to Vaikuntha. But yes, he did. He was meant for that.
And Saraswati Mata says, sometimes we have to focus on mundane tasks like housework, and we may also chant, but we still need to focus on completing mundane tasks properly. So is that inattentive chanting?
No, that's good. That's that, especially this inattentive chanting means when I'm sitting down for chanting, japa, meditation, and my mind is wandering, then inattentive chanting. But any time if I'm adding chanting of Hare Krishna to my whatever I'm doing, that's good. That's not offensive. It should be there. It's mentioned Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was cleansing the Gundicha temple, and everybody they had their mops, they had their buckets, they had their, everything. And everyone was, as we say, into it. Everyone was absorbed in cleaning. But they were all chanting Hare Krishna. They were all chanting Hare Krishna. And even when they would need a new water container or a new whatever, they would ask for it by chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. And they would ask for it. And there's no mention there that, oh, this was offensive, this was inattentive chanting. It's appreciated that they were doing their work and chanting.
Right. And from Deepak Prabhu, we have two questions, and then another question from Tulsi Priya. Deepak Prabhu's questions are, how are karma and jnana the cause of material desires? That's question one. And question
How are
two,
karma and jnana the
yeah,
causes of material? I don't know that they are the causes. Rather, material desires mean will impel me toward karma. I perform karma, pious activities, because I have some desire. I desire material elevation, and so I'm performing pious activities, karma kanda. Or I'm desiring knowledge for speculative understanding. So the desire becomes the basis of the karma and the jnana. And there was a part
and
two.
his second question is, sorry, yes. Should we gratify our desires so that we don't carry our desires to the next life?
No. Satisfy our desires so we don't carry them to the next life. Because what is Tripyanti neha kripana bahudukha bhaja. The desires are duspure and analenacha. They're never satiated. With the more we try to satisfy our desires, the more they grow. Prabhupada compared it to putting out a fire by pouring petrol on it. You may smother the fire temporarily just because you're dousing it with so much petrol, but then the petrol will ignite. So this strategy that let us attain perfection by first satisfying our desires, that will be very difficult because the desires are never satisfied. Dushpurena. Dushpurena. Never satisfied. Chitpyanti neha. We want more. There was a hoarding in Bombay. I guess maybe some financial consulting company or something. And the hoarding asked the question, now that you've made your first crore, now that you've made a crore, what do you want to do now? And the answer was, of course, work on your second crore. Now that you've got so many hundreds of thousands of rupees, now let's work on the next batch. So this is Maya. We're never satisfied. Tripyanti neha. The more we get, the more we want. So the Shastra is advising that we reduce our material desires, that we control, and that we practice, what is that? Satisfaction. Yad rich cha labha santushta. To practice to be satisfied with whatever we get. That's the path. All right, I got this much. That Vamandev told Bali Maharaj. Anyone who wouldn't be satisfied with 3 steps of land wouldn't be satisfied if he got all 3 worlds. So of course it was an ironic statement, but the principle is sound. That for a person who just agrees to be satisfied, he can be happy with whatever Krishna sends. And a person who's not satisfied, even if you give him the whole world, he wants more, he wants more. And that's modern materialistic civilization. They get something and then they want more. They get more and they want still more. So the Vedic way is no, less. Practice to be satisfied with less. That's easy. It's easier to be satisfied with less than to go through all the trouble of getting more and more. And then when I get more and more, still I want. Because no amount of material things will satisfy the soul. But Yayatma supersedity, the soul will be satisfied by Krishna consciousness. So this long project, and that's there, the discussion of there, this is also there in regard to the Maharaj Daksha and his sons. That they, Nard Muni, the Daksha was propounding basically the same idea. First, they should satisfy their desires. Nard Muni said, no, why should they spoil their lives? But just give up these material desires and take the fast route.
Thank
Should
you,
we
Maharaj.
stop?
We want more and more of your, I was going to say, we want more and more of your association, but you like to stop on time. So I think we can save Tulsi Priya's question for next time. It's a great question. And also there's another question that we'll have to save for next time. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for being here. And now we like to end with kirtan. So
Anyone can lead. Our rule is just chant Hare Krishna, one tune, 3 or 5 minutes. Bangladeshi John, who would like to lead kirtan? And of course, it's not responsive.
Can I be heard?
Yes, you can, Prabhu.
Sorry, excuse me, Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Brahmsa Pariraj Jakacharya Stutara Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakun Radha Kun Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Jai Sri Guru and Gauranga. Gurudev Maharaj Ki Jai.
Thank you so much, Krishna Kanteya Prabhu. And thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for all the lively Q&A, especially Maharaj. Thank you so much for
Thank you, Kendra Prabhu. Thank you all.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Samaveta Bhaktivedanta.
Panchakalpatra
Jai.
Jai.
Gaur
Hari
Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol Hari Bol. Das Maharaj Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.